counter, I was fixated on those cookies until I forced myself to pull away. At some point, I noticed that I'd moved my right hand a few inches closer to them, but I had no conscious recollection of my decision to act. I tried to concentrate on reading the newspaper, but I kept glancing back to the plate. Feeling vaguely uneasy, I headed to my upstairs office, which is about as far away from the kitchen as I can get. But even from that safe distance, I could not fully shake the image of the cookies. Eventually, I left the house without having eaten them, and I felt triumphant. Hours later, I headed to Cafe Greco, a North Beach institution where the cappuccino is said to be the best in the city. A large glass jar filled with homemade cookies sat on the counter. I ordered an orange chocolate cookie and ate it at once. I set out to understand what is driving these kinds of behaviors. I wanted to know why Sarah couldn't stop eating, even though doing so made her miserably unhappy and jeopardized her health. I wanted to know why my determination could so easily collapse. I was intent on learning what could be done to help Sarah, me, and the millions of people just like us. I began to listen more closely to people struggling with weight problems, listening the way a doctor needs to listen. I watched as well, paying close attention to how they behaved around food. It soon became clear that Sarah was not alone. My conversation with a journalist, a 40-year-old man I'll call Andrew, reminded me that the struggle respects neither gender, nor socioeconomic class, nor age. Andrew, who is about 5 feet 9 inches tall and weighs about 245 pounds, has written fearlessly from many of the world's battlegrounds. He has spent time with jihadists, suicide bombers, and war-hardened soldiers, and he hasn't flinched. But when I placed M&Ms on the table before him, Andrew felt barely able to cope. When I'm in a meeting or interviewing someone and there's food on the table, I'll spend half my time thinking about that food, he admitted. His internal dialogue seesaws between, man, that looks good, I could eat that, and I'm not going to eat that because I don't need it. His conflict begins early in the day and never lets up. I wake up in the morning knowing that food is my enemy and that I am my own enemy, he observed. It's uncontrollable. At lunch, Andrew is likely to be tempted by a basket of hot, fresh bread served with butter. On city streets, Starbucks seems to summon him, and at home, his refrigerator beckons irresistibly. It just goes on, said Andrew. Like so many people who have difficulty controlling their eating, he sees food as an obstacle course he must navigate. Andrew finds pharmacies and convenience stores particularly challenging. If he manages to get past the candy aisle without succumbing, he has to stare down more candy at the checkout. In a typical tug-of-war, Andrew will pick up candy, put it down, then pick it up again, over and over and over. Sometimes he'll win his battle to get out the door without buying the candy, and sometimes he won't. If he does make the purchase, he often feels so disgusted with himself that he'll pour half the contents into the trash and then polish off the rest. He described what he calls his food soundtrack. When I finished my bowl of Wheaties today, I immediately thought, let me bring a banana and an apple to work so I'm not tempted, so I don't eat that corn muffin downstairs at the office. But any success is momentary and is quickly replaced by further thoughts of food. I talk to myself, he said. I'll ask, what am I going to eat for lunch? What if I get hungry at 3? What are we having for dinner? I hope it's good. On a successful day, using maximum restraint, Andrew will consume about 1,500 calories, which is what he wants to eat in order to lose weight. But the next day, he may consume 5,000. He rarely knows when he's full and feels mystified by people who don't share his single-mindedness. I can comprehend suicide terrorism more easily than I can comprehend somebody who just doesn't think about food, he said, without a trace of facetiousness. Pizza is Andrew's favorite food, and when he smells a hot slice, he's completely distracted. All I'm thinking about is that pizza, he admitted. Very little holds my attention the way a pizza holds my attention. I'm telling you, food talks. All food talks. I bet when an addictive